Ooh, a prop.
Prop.
Oh boy.
All right, folks. We will start the meeting. Do we have anyone that is interested in helping us take meeting notes and scribe today, please?
I will contribute as best I can.
Thank you, David. Many hands make light work. All righty. As is tradition with this group, welcome to the August 16th edition of the best working group. Do we have any new friends that wanted to introduce themselves to the group and say hello? Dan, I see your hand.
Hi. My name's Dan Applequist. I'm just joining Sneak. And I'm here because I really think developer education and best practices like the key important topic. But what do I know? I'm the new guy. So yeah, that's kind of me. Oh, by the way, I also participate in a lot of activities around web standards. So if you're familiar with W3C, you may have seen my name around.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Dan. I think everybody here loves developers, and we're focused on trying to help them be more secure. Awesome. Any other new friends that wanted to say hello and introduce themselves? All right. Well, again, welcome, Dan. We're looking forward to having you in our little family here. First off, does anyone have any opens they want to add? All right, so let's touch on those after I talk about a couple things here. My prop, we have some petitioners that are interested in joining our group. We have some friends at Microsoft that are interested in proposing an open source software secure supply chain framework. This is a set of good practices focused in on open source software consumers, and they are interested in joining our group, kind of being a member project. And they actually have a call starting later today, and I will put a link to that if anyone's interested. But just so you know, we'll have some friends come and talk about this framework and see if it's going to be a good fit for this team to collaborate with. Any questions about that? Vicky.
So are they considering having this being an official project that they're going to donate to OpenSSF, and it will be under the auspices of this working group? Yes,
that is their proposal. And that is why you'll see I have some administrivia that we'll need to deal with next meeting. Kind of more formalizing some stuff, and we will have them come do a presentation, and we will vote to see if the group thinks this is a good project to add in.
And then it goes to the TAC after that, or
we don't have to. I will inform the TAC if we agree, but we don't have to get their permission. It's under our discretion to take on whatever projects we want.
Okay.
Now, if they need funding, that's a different story. But Mr. Rousseau.
I welcome all new participants, but is there not a supply chain specific team in the OSSF, the supply chain integrity team?
There is, and for a little more context, Mr. Wheeler and I have talked with these folks a couple times. Nice group of folks. And we initially thought, well, how does this compare to Salsa? And Salsa is more focused on those that maintain CI/CD infrastructure, whereas the new proposed framework is focused more on consumers, helping them evaluate was software made properly? Did they follow good security practices? So again, we'll have them come in and talk and see. We'll see if it's a good fit here or not, or if we want to steer them more towards a supply chain. But this is definitely not this is more of a complementary piece of work to Salsa than would be a competitor. So did I answer your question, David? Awesome. Thank you.
Something we should keep in mind is that there is a new nascent little baby fledgling metaphor working group for end users specifically. And this might be the sort of thing that would make sense there, or at least be a collaborative effort on that side as well. So I will bring that up in the end users call later this week and see whether we can at least get some of them to show up to our call the next time we have a call, to see whether they're interested. I'll stop babbling and multitasking now.
And their call is at 12 Pacific.
Let me check the calendar. It's this Thursday at
Your call.
Our call. Yeah, so the end user working group is at 7 a.m. Pacific on Thursday.
Awesome.
And this week, there's going to be a discussion whether that is a bi-weekly call or what. But it should remain at 7 a.m. Pacific on Thursdays. This will be our 5th call for the group. It is not yet on the OSS calendar, Laurent, because it is not yet an official working group. Hopefully that will be happening imminently, since this is the 5th call of the group.
Yeah, that's one of the requirements, is you need to have so many participants and so many contiguous calls. So cool. It is not, Lauren, as she mentioned, it's not in the calendar yet, but hopefully will be very soon. And again, I will encourage Jay and that crew to come here to present to us to see if we think it's a fit or not, or if we have suggestions for them as well. Any other comments about the open source software secure supply chain framework? It's a lot of words. All right, let's jump into opens, and then we will go to our concise guide for evaluating open source software. So it looks like our friends at SKF have a couple things they want to chat about. Hey, Ricardo.
Yes. Hey. So the first one I want to show, we're really happy with this one. So if I'm correct, you see the format of the old labs that we have right now.
Yes.
So initially we hoped that we could just do search and replace, because somebody helped us with the designs, but as it turned out, that wasn't the deal. So we had to do this copy paste work for 270 labs. But at least we did it in a way that if we want to refactor it the next time, that we can do search and replace. So we fixed that. So this is the old setup, and this is how the new labs look like right now. So we pushed everything to a separate repository, on the SKF labs repository on the separate branch, and we will probably merge that somewhere this week. And then all the labs are updated, and then, well, we have this nice new format for all the labs. So now that it's changed to this suddenly looks really old. Really funny how quick that goes. So that's one thing. And another thing that we've been working on is we wanted to also have at least create a proof of concept for a lab that helps deliver the idea of threat modeling, but can also be used in threat modeling training. So what we did pretty much is we created an app that has a bit more functionality than normal labs would have. Normally a lab would have just one problem case, like a cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, whatever. This has a couple of problems in it. So this one has cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery. It has insecure randomness when generating password reset tokens. It has a SQL injection hidden somewhere, and all that good stuff. So we have the app right here. And what we did around this lab, and we will also put this in the write-up, is we also for this case created like used face or fake use stories that you can dive into, like, hey, there's a description. As a registered user, you want to be able to authenticate yourself, and then also add in a couple of sequence diagrams that you can use for the threat modeling, a wireframe because it looks nice, and then guide people through how to do list-centric based threat modeling approaches. And ideally then, well, use SKF and the ASVS with this to generate the right security requirements. We're also looking at using KPEG somewhere, somehow in this, but I'm still not really sure on how I want to do this because we started recently working on it. So you have like the use stories. Here you have a more or less finished use stories with some ASVS controls that are generated with the ASVS. So we want to put these control or these examples in the write-up that we would normally have, where we would guide everybody through the reconnaissance phase and the exploitation phase and all that good stuff. But instead of doing that, well, really guide them through the use stories and how to threat model this and how we derive the security requirements for this. So yeah, we're kind of working on this one right now. So it's a fairly simple app. It has a user. The user can log in. It can reset a password. It can read and write some notes. And then we put for the use cases some abuse cases, and we try to correlate them. But yeah, and then also guide you through the whole process and how you would use something like SKF to derive the right ASVS requirements for your use stories that you see here. So yeah, long story short, that's what we've been working on, because I kind of wanted to give a threat modeling training for our software developers internally where I work. And I found like, yeah, there's not really anything that I can just grab from the internet and use as is. That's why we decided like, hey, let's create an app and also make the use stories for it, create some fancy diagrams that people then can later reuse if you want to do the same thing, or also if you want to learn about it and then go through the write-ups that we have.
I think this is pretty cool, Ricardo. Are you looking for any contributions? I do know some expert threat modelers that might be have some thoughts and ability to help contribute.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Really awesome. So if we could make this extensive enough, it could even be a separate training track in the learning paths. So that would be brilliant. But I first wanted to have something, at least something, you know, and then we have something to create good discussions around.
Absolutely. Always better to have a diagram to start with than a blank piece of paper.
Exactly. That was the idea. So yeah, if anybody wants to jump in on this one, yeah, glad.
So I would ask you, if you want to send a note to our mailing list, I'll reach out to people behind the scenes. But if you want to send a note to the mailing list to officially say we're looking for some collaboration, I think this is very worthwhile work. I like it.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Will do.
All right. Any additional thoughts or comments for Ricardo? All right. And did you also cover the new labs design?
Yeah. So old design, new design.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Let's talk to Laurent and Jeff. Do you want to talk about the work you all are just about ready to unveil on the world?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Jeff and I have been working on the NPM best practice document with a focus on supply chain. So not how you implement proper JavaScript code, but more like how do you handle dependencies and what the best practices are around dependency management. So I put a link in the doc. It's the final PR that will finally tag the document as V1.0. We've had a lot of help from people, especially from people who know about NPM and Node.js better than we do. So yeah, thanks a lot to them. We're preparing a small blog post to announce it. I hope in the next 2 weeks we should be able to get it out. If you have any ideas of what we should write in the blog post, yeah, let me know. I'm not the best at writing, so yeah, any help is welcome. Yeah, that's my update.
Awesome. Thank you. I think this is going to be a pretty cool piece of work once we unleash it to the world. And thank you for focusing on this. Very, very useful stuff. All right. I will yield the floor to Mr. Wheeler. Let us talk about our concise guide for evaluating open source software.
All righty. So we have, it's really hard to talk about this guide without talking about the other guide, which is about how to develop secure software, because each document refers to the other. But let's talk about the the concise guide for evaluating open source software first. So let me quickly, I'm going to repost in the chat a link to the Google Doc. I think we're getting a lot closer. You'll notice there's a lot of just little tweaks here and there. We had a section at the very bottom of a to-do, which is more just kind of listing other documents we can point to. So what I did is I just turned that into an other resources you may wish to consider and just listing them, because I'd like to get this document closer to at least a version, if not a 1.0, at least a 0.1, a document where it's clear, where it's providing value, even though it could be improved. So I'm hoping that we're getting more towards that state. For the rest of it, there's a lot of little tweaks here and there. Someone was saying that the various questions need full pages by themselves. I mean, you could write a PhD dissertation about probably each of these points, but the goal is to give something relatively short and links off to more information, rather than trying to do it all here within this document. Excuse me.
Vicky has a question.
Yeah, Vicky.
Yeah, since we have this new project on the horizon, it looks like there might be rather a lot of overlap between what it covers and what this covers, as far as from a consumer perspective, how to evaluate projects. So according to, yes, he's pointing at a thing. So I'm wondering.
Yeah, diagrams. I love diagrams.
Yeah, how are these two going to interact? And I understand it's likely a bit too early to determine that, since most of us haven't seen this other new document that's come up. But
the answer is I have no idea.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering, I am concerned about putting a lot of effort into this when we may have to shift gears for the other project. And Crow, looks like you have an answer for us.
I would propose, since no one has shown up and shared any materials yet, that means that is not a blocker for our existing work. We've been toiling away at this for a while now, so I don't want to impede it. Like David, I think it's better to get a 80% complete product out there and used, and then can refine it in the future. And so I would not wait for something that may or may not occur. The group might say this is something supply chain or end user group is more applicable. So that's what I would not hold up ourselves for that. David.
I agree with that statement. In fact, I suggest that we put a plan together for at least a timeline for this document, so we can have some milestones and dates, try and finish it up. The one pager is great, a lot of good content there. It took a long time. For us to get there. We have a lot of good feedback on this document as well. I think we should put some lines in the sand as far as we want to have the review complete. So we do have a 1.0, which can obviously be updated and changed depending on what happens in the future.
Yeah, the goal has been try to finish it up by the end of this month. That doesn't make it reality because is it ready enough to release? But
well, let's make it a reality. So what needs to happen by the end of this month, for which we have one more of these meetings for us to be ready?
yeah, so as with all things, everything takes longer than you expect. I mean, frankly, probably I have left things unchanged. If somebody put in a comment, I just left it as a comment. If there, I have tried to only add suggested text so that people can decide whether or not they approve it, as opposed to just making changes to the doc. But if we went over and just did an accept all, and I think most of this, I need to walk through all the comments because I don't know if all of it. I'm hoping that most of the comments have since been resolved. Probably need to do a pass through. We also need to talk about the other doc because the two are connected. The guide for developing more secure software.
So the other document, the one-page guide, I would like to not go through and adjudicate and add additional comments right now.
Yeah.
I feel we need to close that up. I think that is ready, almost ready for production. I think we need to spend maybe 5 minutes and then move that forward, move it into Git.
Okay. I mean, I think the main thing to be done on the one page was there was a discussion about how to reorder. And the way I've been trying to solve that is by reordering is a pain. Let's talk about that when we get to that topic. Let's talk about the evaluating open source, though. What I propose is let's start by just accepting the changes that have been made that are currently listed as suggestions. And then let's see if there's anything else that, because I think if we just accept all the changes, we'll have gotten fairly close for both, well, for this document at least. Does anybody object to that?
I second the motion.
Okay, so let's accept all, and if you after that, it'll be easier to review. If anybody has any ideas and proposals. However, I think at this point, comments are helpful, but not very helpful. We really need change X to Y as suggested text.
For example, Vicky found
just
one.
read your mind.
Vicky found a dead link, so we want to make sure we get that addressed. But yeah, I agree.
But here's what I need. I don't need the hey, it doesn't work. I need here's the new link. I think she did in that case. But that's the kind of thing of, telling me there's telling us this a problem is good. Telling us here's the fix is better.
Agreed. Yeah, does anyone have any objections to accepting all current suggestions on the concise guide document?
All right, now I got to figure out how to do it, but it's here somewhere. Anyway, yeah, okay. So how's this? Let's do that. And if you've made a comment, but not a change, see if you can figure out a proposed way to actually make that change. Oh, somebody already accepted some. That's awesome.
Clicking the button.
Click on the button. All right. I was looking for the button earlier. I know there's a button. I just got to find it.
Well, I don't know where the master
It's
button
under tools, tools, review suggested edits, and then
There
I
we
think
go.
under there,
Okay.
you have accept all.
Excellent. I know where it is in Word and Open Office. I got to find it in this one. Oh, but looks like Crobe is beating me to it. So awesome. So yeah, I guess the other issue, probably one of the first comments. This is by Vicky, which I think is worth discussion here. Is aren't many of these covered by the developing secure software one pager? A number of these are. I think it's worth highlighting a few of them as especially important for the evidence that developers work to make it secure. So my theory was, let's list some that are especially important and then link to the other document. That doesn't make it the right solution. That was just the suggested solution. So I probably should put that last then. I don't know if anybody objected. So I was hoping that would kind of deal with that particular issue. But if that doesn't, then let us know.
So what activities do we need to do in 2 weeks from today at our next meeting to make this done?
I will convert all of my comments into either links, or we will I'll table mine if it does not add additional value to the document. And I would encourage everyone else to do the same. So for example, I say, hey, this would make a great blog. Let's note it in the meeting minutes and think about how we can present this and get it used as a blog. Not necessarily have it attached to the document anymore. So I encourage everyone else to go through and look at your comments and either make it an actionable suggestion, change the document, or let's put it into our meeting notes as something we need to address in the future. Does that sound okay?
Yeah. Okay. So.
Oh, wait, quick one.
Yes, Vicky, yes, please.
Rather than putting it in the meeting notes, where it can get kind of buried in a lot of meeting notes, to take a page from an earlier conversation in the last meeting, could we just open issues for each of these? From Crow's
Second.
reaction, I'm guessing that's a yes. Okay.
I'm sorry. Repeat, Vicky. What?
For things that we would like to do in the future, rather than adding them as notes to the meeting notes agenda, move them from the document to an issue in our repository, in our GitHub repository, so we can then track them and work on them there. For instance, if somebody says this would make a great blog post, awesome, whip up a quick issue, open it up, we can track that.
Oh, I see. Yes. But if it's a change to the document itself, I would suggest for make it in the doc as a suggested change.
Yes, exactly.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
I was thinking. All right. Got it. I'm separating those two ideas out now.
Exactly. As we move through and we look at the comments in the document, the things that we can address for the document that are relevant to the document, take care of those. Anything else, airlift them out and drop them very gently and kindly into an issue.
Vicky, do you have the link to the repo handy?
Nope. I just
For the
sort of
issues?
start typing in.
Give me a second and I'll post it. I'm typing an issue right now. When I'm done, I'll give the link in the chat and the meeting notes.
Thank you, Judy. All right, while Krob is typing away his issue, David, once all those comments are resolved and or converted into issues and or links are provided or information is provided, beyond suggestions, what else, if anything, do we need to do between now and next meeting?
Yeah, so maybe we need to have a deadline pens down. Let's see here. If we can have all proposed changes by next week, 7 days. I mean, this thing's been open for a while, so it's not like you only had 7 days to write. But you know, if we can get all proposed changes in by next week, the problem is I don't want to just unilaterally make decisions. I really do want this to be a group, and I'm sure Crow feels the same way. We want this to be a group decision. This is an awful large group to try to work through a document, though. I mean, do we want to try to work through the document, or do we want to make a little subgroup that kind of walks through and tries to adjudicate the changes and then bring it back to this larger group?
I would
What do you think about
suggest we set up a doodle, and anyone interested and able attend that call to go through the focus on the document, and then come back and present those final proposal to the group next time.
I think it's reasonable to ask for all input to be in the document by a week from today.
Yeah, so and then we'll try to set up between 7 days and 14 days, and we'll do a doodle poll. Hopefully, I know I'm interested. Krob, you're probably interested. Vicky, I'm gonna guess you're interested, and if not, maybe I can talk you into it. But
You can probably, yeah, it's more a matter of, fitting it in the cracks, but I will see what I can do to lend a hand, my friend.
I am sympathetic to this problem. Yes, I am. Because just I noticed that several folks have spoken up a number of times, submitted a number of comments, and those are all greatly appreciated. So let's get those folks, especially, whoever you are, let's take that last pass, and then we'll have 2 docs. And you know what? It's okay if later on I would not expect there to be no changes in either of these. I would expect these to be updated and improved. And frankly, the first time we release it, we'll get a whole bunch of suggestions, and so let's get that process started. Yeah, 2 docs, Marta. One is the one-page guide for developing more secure software, and the other is the concise guide for evaluating open source software.
And my point was that it was who posted link to the existing guidelines for developing that I don't know if we finished or not.
I'm sorry, what are you talking? Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the developing open source or the concise guide for evaluating open source?
Remember last year, we went through and assembled a bunch of existing security guides and good practices. That's already
right. That's a different thing.
That's a resource. That's different than these 2 things.
Right. The guide for developing more secure software does not try to list all resources available. It is very much a curated list. Do we want to go on briefly to the one-page guide? Crow? Okay, so let's move on, because they're really, in my mind at least, they're a pair. So the key thing about the one-page guide is, I mean, really, it's been mostly done for a while. There's a couple comments in there, but really the big challenge here has been figuring out the order of the suggestions. I think part of the problem is that people have disagreed on how we should order things. Eric Tice has had a number of I think, very helpful comments. Eric, are you here?
I am here.
Excellent. All right. So thank you very much for your comments.
I just wanted one quick note since you called me out. I did have my development team go through all of this.
Oh, okay.
They all agreed it was very helpful. They didn't have any major updates other than order, similar to what I had, but overall they found it to be a very good initial guide to help them out.
Oh, fantastic. All right, so I'm trying to deal with a technical limitation, and that's that in Google Docs, you can easily suggest, word changes, but it's kind of hard to track order changes. They just kind of happen. I mean, you can leave all the ordering changes as suggestions, but what you get is a whole bunch of lineouts. It's not at all obvious where things moved. So I don't know if it was the best way to handle it, but what I did is I just copied the items below and then tried to reorder them. Eric Tice suggested that, and actually probably should ask you to explain it, but I interpreted it as put the more focused, easily done items first, and then later either the more general or harder to do for various reasons later. So it's semi-ordered in terms of priority. And, you do this, then this, then this. Semi temporal order. Eric, if I misrepresented you, please correct what I just said.
No, I think the reality is in certain points within it, there are things that are precursors, like when you mentioned tooling, and then you mentioned, package managers and other things. If you're fairly new to this, if you're not as an experienced developer, you're not as familiar with the different areas that are being brought up in this document, it's helpful to just kind of nudge them into it. Not everybody who's going to be using this is going to be a senior developer. A number of people may be more junior, so getting them into each aspect of it as it will help their application. And some of these things, just inherently are good best practices regardless of security. But that's my feeling, and all of them kind of build up to attaining that best practices badge at the end. So if you're not doing a number of these things that are called out and actually the check marks of the best practice badge, then it makes sense to me that they're somewhat ordered in that context, but that's certainly up for debate.
Okay, let's see here. I think the main change in so we putzing around with the ordering. It looks to me like one of the main questions left is moving 7, 8, and 9 between 3 and 4 in the second list. So basically, it would be use a combo of tools to evaluate your pipeline, and then evaluate software before selecting it, use package managers, use automated tests, and then monitor for known vulnerabilities. Is that a reasonable reorder? I mean, we're not arguing whether or not something should be done. We're just arguing how it should be ordered in the list. So is everybody okay with that tweak in the new order?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, I will just.
Looks like Randall is. Any other thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to switch over to editing mode, and we'll just do that. Now you'll notice that I'm moving these things around in the lower list. Okay, I will take on the job of making the actual text above match the order below. But there's just, sorry about this weird thing of handling order, but I just couldn't figure out a better way of making it so people could see what was being changed while it was see the proposal without just having it happen. So, okay. Yeah. So basically, yeah, so the list shows up. This one-page guide, it's listed twice. The first is the actual text, and the second is just the proposed reordering. All right, so in fact, we've already done 2 of those. All right, so I will take on the task of making it one big happy family, and I think we're pretty close. I mean, we can always make improvements, but I think we're getting pretty close for this one-page guide. We've been beating on it for a while. Marta.
Yeah, I got a number of comments from developers, so I put them as comments in the document when they apply. But there's one recurring thing that multiple people reported.
Okay.
So I summarize that as this guide for them looks more like an integration guide and less as a guide for developing on its own. So the thing they found missing is, for example, code reviews, doing code reviews and doing code reviews from security experts or security-minded people from the project to improve the general code quality.
Right. Well, we could certainly do code reviews. And
definitely, but when we are reordering stuff, that's not the best moment to add a new item, right?
Well, now we do have third-party security code review and audit. I mean, it's in the list.
So they told not actually it's third party in the project. security. The code review itself,
have others,
no.
have others review before accepting changes, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Good. I mean, I think one challenge, of course, is that not all projects have multiple people, but all right. So let's talk about that. Where would that go in our list? Sign releases, make it easy to update.
So
All
is
right.
the question to have a separate point for an internal code review versus a
Yeah.
third party?
That's how I'm interpreting
So
Marta's comment.
would we meet your desired goal, Marta, if we changed item 21 to read complete an internal and or third party security code review? Instead of adding a whole semi-redundant line?
I think it would be good to because I agree with the comment that the in project code security review is something that comes first, and it's more important than third party audit for the general quality, right?
I don't know if it's more important. I actually do agree that it should be separate, in part because many more projects can have a second person review than pay for a third party security audit. Those can get pricey.
So could you change the line to highlight conduct an internal code review, and then at the end of that statement say, and if you have resources and time, consider a third party review. Make the third party kind of an afterthought. Because we're balancing budget here. We only have so many lines on our
Right. Complete security code audit. How's this? Complete security code audit / review. At least do internal. Consider doing an external, but I think the problem is no matter what, it's going to be 2 lines.
Yeah, well, that's okay. But I would like to
But in that case, you may as well have them separate bullets, because I think adding the internal review is going to happen long before you do the external. I wouldn't. I'll tell you what. I would not pay for a third party external review until I started to get the internal reviews first, because they're going to find out stuff I could have found out myself.
But what if you don't have the skill set or time to do?
Then you skip that point.
Well, that's where outsourcing it to a third party could be helpful, if that is, again, part of your project's goals to achieve that.
Yeah. Oh, I see Dan raised his hand.
Please.
Hi. Sorry, I'm the new person, so I'm going to be very prone to asking stupid questions. But one thing that occurred to me when I was reviewing the one pager here is that you're talking about scanning for known dependencies. You're talking about creating a security advisory on GitHub, in particular around scanning for dependencies. I know this has been a sensitive point in Sneak, where people are pointed towards Dependabot, and and I've seen a lot of discussion internally about wanting to ensure that OpenSSF language is vendor neutral. So yeah, I'm probably that's what I ought to be inputting or pushing out there. I don't know how to make that vendor neutral. Obviously, being a member of the community, I know this is valuable advice, but also I do think maybe there's some way that it could be made more vendor neutral without necessarily listing all different products that somebody might use, in the one pager.
That is absolutely one of our goals and how we've been operating, Dan. We typically will, if there's a good exemplar, we'll say, here's the practice. As an example, if you're in GitHub, here's Dependabot. It achieves this. So we do try to do that. We may have missed reading. Normally, Zav from GitHub is harshest critic there, because he wants us to be as neutral as possible, but he's not here today to yell at us.
You know what? I just changed the text right now to samples
Thank you.
are,
Yeah.
and hopefully that will at least. Hopefully that will. Oh, hey.
Okay. Yeah. That helps. Absolutely. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, can't quite get to one line. All right, so we may have to play with indent games, but to make this one page.
On the web, there is no one page. It's all one page.
Well, that if we post this as a PDF, it's still one page. One page still matters. So
I guarantee we can make this fit on one page if that needs to happen.
that's right. That's right.
It was more of a
One point
guideline.
font,
It was a
one-
guideline, not a policy.
Yeah, maybe we should rename this also to the Concise guide, since the other one's the Concise guide. What do you think?
David, I've just left feedback on the document. I think really all our guides should be named similar for branding purposes. Maybe OpenSSF guide to XXXX or something like that, rather than even Concise guide.
I think the problem here is that I expect that we may have multiple guides. So I hate to say it's the guide.
No, I was thinking like your brand first, guide to whatever that guide is, to keep all the guides similar in title. So
I'm okay with the similarity. I don't think OpenSSF should put the name in the title also, because OpenSSF is also the author. So you come up with the OpenSSF's OpenSSF guide for developing more secure software. So that's yeah. So we're already the source. So I don't think we have to put our name in there also.
maybe just guide. I don't know. Concise guide, one-page guide, cheat sheets. They seem problematic when they grow.
Well, I understand. That's why I'm suggesting maybe I should give up on one page, because I think some people called this a cheat sheet. That was one of the comments. But I like Concise because it's concise.
Yeah, concise guide for all. Yeah, just keep branding the same, I suppose. Cheat sheets all named.
Okay.
Maybe a template for future guides.
I'm just worried about the number of characters in it, to be honest. Is everybody okay with Concise? That for the title? Okay, I see. Okay, all right, good. So we'll have them both be concise. Having the whole group just figure out what the title is of the thing they're producing seems reasonable enough. All right, very good. All right, so we are at least being consistent. All right, so I will try to work out a scheduled doodle poll. I'll try to work out a doodle poll. Everybody comments by next week this time. The title
Correct.
should be long. And then we will try to wrap this up. So the goal is by 2 weeks from today, next meeting, to have final versions, as final as these things ever get.
Yeah, and in parallel, referring to the awesomest new issue in our GitLab, number 71, if anyone's interested in starting to compose a blog that talks about these and why these guides are important, please kind of raise your hand to start to collaborate on that. So ideally, as we get ready to publish these, we might have the supporting marketing material ready as well. All right, any other discussion on this? I have a business point to talk about for next call, if not. All right, so our next call, I would like to review our working group charter and get that formally approved. I will publish a list of attendance, who has attended and like who qualifies into, there's certain things in the charter. They talk about maintainers, contributors, and collaborators. So I'll provide that list of who qualifies in each section. And I would like the group to formally vote and get the charter accepted or edited. And then I would like to start a schedule on reviewing our backlog of issues and PRs. And that will help us decide on, give us a structure to vote on things like our friends from Microsoft who have a framework they'd like us to collaborate with them on. Vicky.
So I'm probably going to throw a bit of a monkey wrench in your charter idea.
Oh, you aren't.
I know, I'm sorry. But the TAC was working on a single kind of template charter that would apply to all working groups. And I know this because they assigned it to me and I haven't finished it yet. Because they were so busy wrangling the infamous issue 112 or whatever it is now. Yeah, so I don't know where that is, but would we like to hold off on that until so we don't have to vote twice on that sort of thing? Although there are certain things like, looking at attendance and stuff that will be required regardless, but the definition of who is a maintainer, who is a core, all that sort of lovely stuff is potentially going to change, or otherwise possibly, right? The TAC has to decide that sort of stuff, and as a TAC member, you're very, very painfully aware of how that process works.
I'm very aware of the 700 comments on PR 112.
Yeah, I will fully admit, just thankfully, I'm very grateful not to be a TAC member, so I don't have to be as clued into that, and I can just watch the comments go by. But I do know that standardizing that for all working groups is something they want to do. So I support the effort, but I don't want to duplicate it.
So we've had that item out and ignored it for a very long time. We need to, I want this group to democratically decide, do we want to be a big brother, big sister to the Microsoft people for their proposal? And then I also need to propose to the group, I want to give people the ability to express their opinions on, are they happy with how the group is being led? Do they want to make any changes there? I want to give us some structure on, why am I all fuzzy? On how the group is conducted. So I want to make sure I'm giving everyone fair ability to express themselves and make any changes that might be desired from the team.
Yeah, I support all of that. Yay. And I love that you want to do that. I'm just wondering whether there's a way to do it that isn't quite as official and set in stone as, say, a charter at this moment in time, since the charter is something that with the TAC might be in flux. So maybe there's some sort of interim measure that can accomplish the same goals. And do I have suggestions for you? No, I'm not going to be helpful that way. But
so how about based off the current guidelines that are documented in the charter today, but not ratified, I will divide us up into the 3 categories of maintainer, collaborator, and contributor, so we can kind of understand how that might look in the future. And then we will vote on things like the Microsoft, or if we want to potentially make changes to how this group is led or run.
I think that's a great start. One thing we should certainly
review
be
backlog stuff.
Yeah. One thing we should certainly be looking at is making sure we have an official vice chair. So
we have Zav, but he has not been able to attend as often as he used to. So we may want to approach him about that.
Okay.
But yes, we absolutely should have a vice chair, and we do need to do backlog pruning. That's something we've definitely not done, and that's bad on me. Mr. Rousseau.
So based on that decision, what is the homework for everybody here to prepare for that exercise next week?
Our homework would be, please read through the existing issues and PRs so that we can have a conversation about them. And then hopefully I'll get Jay, the Microsoft crew, in to talk through and explain to the group what their proposal is and how they might like collaboration. And potentially, I don't know if we'll be at a point to vote on that, But hopefully the PR 112 will be closer to being finalized, so we have that structure, so we will know exactly how we might do the business of the working group, as opposed to the fun stuff like we just did with David's docs. That sound okay? All right. And then also think about other additional homework would be think about, are you satisfied with how this group is being run? Are you satisfied on how we're structured? And do you have any suggestions on proposals for changes? And we'll talk through those next week. And or next 2 weeks. And also we'll be doing the final rush through of David's 2 docs. Any other comments or suggestions or feedback? All right, thank you all. I really appreciate all the help on these 2 concise guides. Very excited to see those almost done. And we're looking forward to talking to you very soon. Have a great day. And if anyone wants to help with the blog, issue 71, just note that and I'll set up something to a straw man for that blog. Thanks.
See everybody.